Thank you. Thanks for joining. So hi everyone, my name is Ashok, right? So today's session is going to be on augmented analytics, right? So we are starting some 15 minutes late, but fine, we have 3 hours time, so we should be able to cope up, right? So we have following things in the agenda, right? So first, for 16 minutes or so, like we will talk about augmented analytics, like mainly in terms of what is augmented analytics and how it can solve, what are the different challenges in the data science space, right? Where the augmented analytics can specifically solve our problems, right? And also let's talk about the real world use cases. Like in my role, basically as a product manager, right? I work in SAP and I day in day out talk to a lot of customers, right? So you know, SAP is a business software company, like so more than 80% of the Fortune 2000 companies use SAP, right? And so all the real world problems, what we hear from them, that's where we provide a solutions with data science and all those things, right? And we'll talk about the key use cases which SAP focuses on and how this augmented analytics solve those particular use cases, right? And that's going to be the talk in the first half. Right. Later, what we are planning is like have a hands-on, right? So we have put a prerequisites in the website as well, like you should bring a laptop, right? So and you can have a complete hands-on on the solutions what SAP providing on augmented analytics. Okay. So that's going to be for 1.5 hours. So and then we can have open discussions continue. In between, we can take a break, right? Let's look at a logical place and let's plan for a break, right? Okay. So when you really look at the way the software industry grows, right? So SAP is in this space for quite some time, right? From 1960s, right? And one thing what we see is for every decade, right? So and there is a huge disruption in terms of technologies, and right from the mainframe to the client server technologies to the cloud computing, right? Now it's more of an intelligent era, right? So all these days what happened is in terms of like all the business automation has generated a large amount of data, right? And all our customers have huge amount of data, and all the statistics says, right? Every year the data doubles, right? So all the new technologies like IoT and all those things generates a lot amount of data. And that's where we see huge opportunity in terms of figuring out the insights from the data, right? That's where SAP is focusing on intelligent enterprise, making the enterprise much intelligent. And when you talk about intelligent enterprise, its key things which comes is this technologies, that is machine learning, artificial intelligence, and mainly the data science kind of platforms, right? So that's where we heavily focusing on in terms of finding insights for our customers and making to have a better decisions, all those things, right? And one more thing, if you really look at what is really changed over time, what is this technology really disturbed over time, right? And basically one thing what it has done is it has improved the ability to automate your process, right? Ability to automate the manual task what the user used to do, right? So since the capability of automation can increase because of these technologies, right? So users can focus on the high value task, and all the repetitive tasks can be much automated and make it much more efficient. So that's one cut of it, right? And when you look at these technologies, right? So I mean, there are a lot of jargons around, right? So let's spend some time in terms of what we are talking about, what is that we are focusing today, right? And let's be on the same line. So when you look at this analytics landscape as such, right? So I'll put the analytics into these categories. First is the standard analytics, right? Next, we call it augmented analytics or smart analytics. Next is advanced analytics. Other is cognitive analytics or artificial intelligence, right? So if you look at what are the key things in this, right? So maybe I'll read out here. So analytics more about user finding some information in the data. So like a lot of analytics tools we have, right? All the BI tools and data science tools and all those things, you run some algorithms, you put some visualization, figure out some details from the data and all those things. It's more of powered by humans for the humans, right? User has to go and play with the data and figure out more insights, right? And the growth in that space is like augmented analytics. That's what we are going to talk more about that today, which is more about like powered by math for humans, right? So how these algorithms can find insights automatically, right? Understanding the need for the users and come up with some insights which you wouldn't never thought about it, right? That's where we have designed all our hands-on exercise also on this, right? So that's powered by math for the humans, where it kind of automates the business process, what automates your process of finding insights, right? And next space is advanced analytics. You know, all this machine learning algorithms, right? And this more of powered by math for the process, where you can operationalize your business process with these kind of technologies. Next, in the other side, what you see is artificial intelligence and cognitive. You can compare it like powered by math for interacting with humans for autonomous systems, something like where system kind of interact with the users. So that's where we see, like, you can put all the jargons here based on these categories, right? So here, when you say analytics, more of a descriptive analytics, like reporting, dashboarding, and all those things, and all the diagnostic data discovery, like Ajay visualization and spatial visualization, navigation, all those things comes here, right? And next, in augmented analytics, it's basically assisting the users, right? How a system can sit underneath and assist the users in finding the insights automatically. So there are some key influencers, hidden structures, outliers, right? And what model-based what if, right? So we'll talk more on this today, right? In advanced analytics space, you know, right, all about predictive modeling, right? Figuring out, doing a classification, regression, time series, right? All those kind of use cases, right? That comes under the advanced analytics. Also, for a structured and semi-structured like text analytics, all those things comes under this advanced analytics space, right? And also the advanced analytics can be extended to prescriptive analytics, like what could be the next best action you can take, what will be the impact of that would happen in future, right? So next, one more other side of the spectrum is this knowledge representation and control, where the system uses the other technologies like neural network, text-to-speech, and speech-to-text, all those natural language processing, all those technologies where the system uses to interact with the humans, right? That's where we see chatbot and all those things what we use, right? This is how you could think of, right, putting all these technologies in a wide spectrum of analytics, right? So in the analytics landscape. Right. So today's talk we are going to focus about augmented analytics and the few something where we can bring this advanced analytics for non-data scientist kind of person. Right. So before getting into that, we will talk about a few real world use cases at very high level, right? And then later in the slides, we'll talk about a few main use cases what we are solving with augmented analytics. So in the top circles, if you really look at, these are the key line of businesses, right? And where we see predominantly predictive use cases and this machine learning use cases are used, right? And if you do a Google search on machine learning use cases, right, most of the things you will figure out mostly used on sales and marketing, right? Like when you come to the sales and marketing, like churn reduction, and like to figure out which are the customers like going to churn out of your organization, to figure out what are the patterns they show, right? People who quit from your organization going to the competitor, right? To trying to figure out those patterns, right? And customer acquisition in terms of out of all your past prospective customers, trying to address the customers who are really potential to buy your product, right? So that you can do the upsell. So we have few use cases, we have hands-on those use cases as well, right? And lead scoring and campaign optimization, same thing like marketing campaign, how to optimize that, right? So not only in the sales and marketing, when you come to the operations, right? So one of the main use case field where we see is predictive maintenance, right? Looking at the need of the predictive maintenance in the enterprise space, like we have come up, SAP has come up with a separate product line on predictive maintenance. So it is so big, right? So like predictive maintenance, you can look at like all this IoT data coming from all the machines, right, which helps to figure out if there is any unusual pattern that is happening in the data, right, in the situation. So when before the machine fails, it was showing these kind of parameters earlier. It like temperature of the machines was high, humidity was high, or vibrations. So understanding those kind of parameters and trying to figure out much in advance, like when it's trying to show those signals that this machine can go down in next 4 hours, right? So you can do a lot of fixing. I mean, you can have this downtime optimized because of these things. Like a lot of manufacturing industry customers, most of our SAP customers focus on this predictive maintenance, making sure their operations run 24/7, right? And okay, also like one of the use case I could take about is the quality management, right? So we are working with one of the biggest car manufacturer, like I think it's Mercedes AMG, right? So what they do is before they make the cars available, right? Make the cars available for sales. What they're going to do is they're going to test the engines, right? So they're going to test the engine for almost 4 days. Okay, so it's a 4 days running operation. So many times what happens for them, one of the problem statement is after 3rd day, right, they come to know that the machine is going to fail. I mean, that's where the machine fails, right? So 3 days time is waste. Also, the machine has, the engine has gone to the state where it cannot be recovered, right? So they came up with, anyhow, this engine have a lot of sensors, right? So all these data are available. So trying to figure out a pattern in terms of when before the machine fails, 8 hours before fails, what is the signals it provides, right? And they have close to some 750 sensors which is available in that engine. So using all these parameters, trying to figure out, right, whether the machine is going to fail, right? If at all fail, how well it's going to run, right? So many times what they can do when it starts showing such signals, they could stop the test, right? And they could fix the problem and then could run the test back, right? So one of the main challenge, one of the main problem what they solve there is they don't waste the time, right? That is one. And they save lot of time. And next, main thing what they do is like the cost. With the machine goes waste, right? So they cannot be recovered back. The cost what they save is also huge. So they have seen a huge kind of value addition with these kind of use cases, right? And if you take fraud and risk use cases, like fraud transactions, banking fraud transactions, and those kind of analysis, right? And credit scoring, before you apply a loan, right? They'll try to figure out what is your credit score, right? How well you will repay, right? So understanding your pattern of purchasing behaviors earlier, right? How you behave, right? So that's on the credit scoring and a lot of such use cases, right? And one more interesting use case is what we started seeing in finance and HR is that, so SAP has a solution on the success factor is one of the HR solutions. So what we are working on, what you are basically doing there is like when a manager posted a resume, posted a job description, right? So many times it happens such a way that looking at the job descriptions and looking at the job description, it happens like more male employee applies for it, right? Or more female candidate applies for it. It's kind of a gender biased, right? So trying to identify whether the job description which has been posted, whether it's a gender biased or not, right? And if it are gender biased, what is the suggestion that can be provided to the manager so that they can fix those things in the text and make it neutral, right? So we are working on that kind of use case, right? So and that is one. And like employee retention to figure out the signals from the employees. So those are also in the HR, right? So also in the medical fields, we started seeing SAP is not much into this medical space, but there are few use cases where our customers are trying to use most on the healthcare space, trying to figure out the potential like infections that patients could get in. Right? So one of the hospitals in US is working on that. So so these kind of machine learning use cases is not specific to particular industries, right? It's across LOBs, across industries, right? And the amount of use cases is much wider, right? And okay, and with all these things, one of the main challenges what we see today, right? So there are a lot of challenges, but I like to put the two main challenges which kind of solves 80% of the problems. right? So first main challenge is it's subject to human bias, right? Meaning if I give an analytic use case to one user, right? The same analytic use case if I go and give it to somebody else, right? The insight what this person is going to find and insight what the other person is going to find is going to be extremely different, right? Maybe sometimes close, but many times different. That is one, right? It's based on the skill and based on the questions what he is forming, based on the experience what he has, right? It's highly human bias. That's fine, right? That's one way fine. Another way, like we will miss out a lot of insights. That is one. Another big challenge is what we see is the users get into insight when some problem occurs, right? When the problem occurs, the time what the user is going to have for finding insight is much lesser, right? Okay, so in that case, what happens, like if he has 1 hour, he can find some certain amount of insights. If he has 2-3 hours, he can find more number of insights, right? So these are the two main problems what we see in this data insight space, right, where we are trying to solve these problems with this augmented analytics solutions, right? And other point of view, right, our famous Gartner, what they say is that the tools are much complex. That's the reason the adoptions of these technologies is much lesser in the organizations, right? It is this machine learning and these kind of use cases, right? It is predominantly data science game. So people who study the data science, only they can kind of do these use cases, right? And that is one problem, right? And the complexities of the applications, complexities of the tool for wider spectrum of users to use is a secondary problem, right? But Gartner predicts saying that more than 50% of the users in the organizations, right, requires a use cases which is addressing, which can be addressed by the advanced analytics space, right? So how you can solve these big gap? So if any organization, when we speak, right, out of analytics department, maybe some 300 people are working on the analytic department itself, right? Hardly we can find some 10 data scientists if the 300 people are working in analytic department, right? All those 10 people are completely busy with the CEO's use cases, right? Key use cases of the organizations, right? And but the second level manager, third level manager, operations, everybody comes with some use cases where they want to know some insights, what things could happen in future, right? And they are not able to address those things. So that's where we see this huge gap in the space of advanced analytics, where augmented analytics can fix to some extent and help them to come find more insights, right? So let's look at the wide spectrum of users, right? So what we see is one side we know data scientist, right? So like data scientists, you guys all know, like machine learning, algorithms, and predictive modeling, CRISP-DM process, all those things they use. They are completely learned this. There are a lot of tools in the market. There are R, Veka, a lot of tools like open source also there, and license software. Lot of solutions which is there for quite some time, right? So people read in that they do. So that is one side of the users, right? So they know what process to do, right? The next set of users, what we see, right? This is where we see a lot of users. This is like at least some less than 5% of the users, right? So here what we see is like these are the business users or business analyst, or Gartner calls it citizen data scientist, where they understand the business problem what they want to solve. Okay, and they understand the business problem, but they are not a PhD in data scientist, or they have not gone through the data scientist, right? So they want to come up with the same solve the same use cases with the help of tool, right? So that's where we have built a solution with the help of the with the help of augmented analytics to solve the use case. We'll talk more on that in coming slides, right? And other side, what we see is end business users, right? So for example, you take a situation where a call center guy taking a call, right? At that particular time, he wants to, while talking with the customer, he wants to decide whether to retain this customer or not. For example, customer is very angry and saying that I'm going to churn out from the organization, right? So at that point of time, the call center guy has to take a call in terms of what is that offer I should make, so to retain him. Should I retain him, right? Whether he is a corporate tie-up customer, he will never go, right? Or he is some customer who has a high influence to do, right? So he at that point of time, that user, the use case is valid for him, right? At that point of time, he cannot go to some external tool and try to do the predictive modeling and come up and do it, right? We should have the capabilities which is completely embedded within the business applications, right? Where he is using and helping him to get this prediction done, right? We'll talk more on this as well, right? So today's talk is going to be more focus on these two persona, not on the data scientist. We have solutions, we can integrate the R packages within our solutions, right? And we have written our own algorithms. We have, SAP has something called SAP HANA. Whoever is in the SAP space will understand. It's a completely in-memory database where we have all the algorithms written in the in-memory, right? So that like millions of transactions, millions of records can be processed in a sub-second responses, right? So we have complete solutions there, but the main challenge is what we see is the adoption of that, right? So that's where we came to these two spaces, addressing the non-data scientist, citizen data scientist persona and the end business users, right? First, let's look at this business analyst, citizen data scientist persona, how it works, right? So we have a solution called SAP Analytic Cloud, right? So we'll talk about augmented analytics capabilities in SAP Analytic Cloud. So before getting into the features, so what I'm planning to explain about, like, so what is this SAP Analytics all about, right? So SAP is into this analytics space with the business objects acquisition for more than 20 years. Right. So, and we have a lot of customers, I mean, a lot of Fortune 500 customers mainly using SAP Analytics in their spaces, right? So, but with the cloud and all those things, what we have done is we have completely rethought way the analytics has to be done, right? And we have brought in the entire spectrum of analytics, right, from planning, BI, predictive, application design, everything into one single product. So, it's completely run on the cloud, right, in a hybrid mode, where it can connect to the data which is running in the cloud, that where you have a data in the on-premise, all those solutions, right? So we have end-to-end solutions in the cloud with end-to-end analytics like planning, BI, predictive, everything, right? Okay, so we are going to focus, I'm going to show some key capabilities in SAP Analytic Cloud. It's called Search to Insight, Smart Discovery, and Smart Predict. Instead of explaining those features, so let's do a quick demo on those features. Right. Okay, this is basically SAP Analytic Cloud. So, and so remember, we are going to talk more on the citizen data scientist persona and the end business users, right? So, as a user, what he is going to do is he has a data, right? Okay, it's not sharing. F7. Okay, only the top. It's not. It's display is not coming, is it? It's. I think there is some problem in the display. Looks like maybe I'll move the screen here, but I won't be able to. If I duplicate, it's not. It's coming like this. Huh? I think I'll go stand there and do the extend and see the monitor and do. I'll see. Huh? Extend ಮಾತ್ರ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ? that's fine. Let's see. Right. So as a business user, what I'm going to do now is I just drag and drop the data into the system, right? So and either I can connect to any external system. There are a lot of other options, right? As soon as I put the data, so one of the challenge what happens in the BI space is that the data model has to be generated, right? So we have to define something as a dimension, measures, and aggregations, and all those things, right? So there is a system running underneath. This is one step of augmented analytics. What we do is we automatically figure out what could be the potential dimension, measures, and all those things. Since we have the context of the business applications, when user connect to the business application, we can much better decide. If it's an Excel, we have some logic in which we could figure out whether it could be a dimension, measures, and all those things, right? So as soon as user drags and drop data, when all the business model generates, and I think it's getting cut. Let me try to. Right. So user can say that I'm looking at the sales revenue, and say I want to look at the same revenue by product lines. Right. So this is the standard BI stuff, right? So people frame a questions in their mind, right? Once they frame a questions in their mind, they start playing with the tool and figure out more insights, right? Or instead of product lines, I could say that I am interested in the managers, and remove the product lines and look at for all the managers or something, right? So once I find some insights, what I could do is I could okay. So here, once he start looking at the visualization, there are underneath some predictive and machine learning algorithm which runs in, right? And when he start analyzing like something, for example, he sorts the data. For example, he wants to look at sales revenue highest to low, right? And he wants to look at, okay, this particular manager has made a lot of sales, and he wants to look at what could be the reason behind it. Okay, so here there is smart insights which he can trigger. So there are algorithms which runs underneath and figures out the insight, what could be the potential reason why he is making, right? So it basically figures out that these are the top categories of sales what he makes. So where he stands more than 994% above the average, right? And also he can go to the next level information. Right? So there is a system runs underneath which is helping a non-data scientist, right? It's an analytic user to figure out some insight. It's like you could call it as a BI user to find insight. So this is one level, right? So far what we have done is a BI use case, right? So where he knows what is the question he's trying to answer and using the tool to solve the answer. So we have more capabilities here, something called smart data discovery, right? So always it's a challenge to start something from the plain canvas, right? So and here what we could do is he could just say what is that he is really interested, and he could say I'm really interested in sales revenue, and run the stuff, right? So what it could happen is system looks at all the statistically relevant information for the sales revenue out of hundreds of columns what we have, right, and figures out what could be the key insight which interest him, right, and statistically which is relevant, and shows as a set of charts for him, right? And the same charts will keep changing based on the data what you throw, right, and based on the different types of dimensions, measures, and what you have. Geo, if you have it will show that geo dimension separately and geograph separately, and if you have time dimension, you will have a time series charts and all those kind of things. Okay, right. So here what is going to have is set of visualizations which is automatically created. I think because of the network it's taking a couple of minutes more. You'll have the complete story which is created automatically, right? Yeah. No problem. Maybe. Yeah, maybe we'll take after the session. Maybe after maybe 20 minutes, I'll finish the flow. Right? We can have a Q&A for 5 minutes. Right? Okay, so here if you really see what it has done, okay, you're interested in the sales revenue, this is the sales revenue, this is the distribution of the sales revenue, and when you look at the sales revenue over time, this is how it's going, right? And you can do some forecast here as well, like how many periods you want to do and all those things, right? You could extrapolate, and also like you could look at what are the key influences. This is one of the other more information what we provide, what are the key influences which decides your sales revenue output, right? So I could say that quantity sold is the key influences. Okay, more you sell, more quantity, I mean more quantity will make more revenue, that is one, right? The next key influences, what it shows is the discount, right? You could look at how this discount is influencing their entire revenue, right? And you could look at more, if you give less discount, more discount, what is the impact on the revenue, right? So, so this way, like just telling what is the intention, system is finding the underneath statistical relevant information and provides him the much more information, like what could be the, what are the outliers happens in your data, right, which stands out basically, and also it builds a model underneath, which would be a model based simulation, right? So with out of all the columns you've thrown in, it picked up the key columns here, and it has given us a model based, okay, I think the screen is getting cut. So what you could do is you could do a model based what if analysis, like if I, same product, if I sell in a different city by the same manager, what will be the change in the sales revenue, on those kind of analysis can be done, right? So so far what we have seen is the complete BI use case, right? So, but when it comes to predictive and this machine learning use case, you have a complete process, right? So even just helping only the analytics with this this augmented analytics use case, I mean the BI use case with this augmented analytics is not enough, right? We should come up with this advanced analytics use cases also, right? That's where people can take it to the next level and start doing predictions. So this is where we have come up with an automated approach of building a predictive models, machine learning models for a non-data scientist persona. Right. So in the top, what you'll see the classical model approach, right, you'll go through the complete crisp DM process for building the models, right? So like data, you take a data set, data manipulations, and look at different variables and do a prediction and do the scoring, look at how the models is performing, right? And then you take it to the next step of implementing the model and monitoring the model, all those things, entire process, right? So the entire model building process, right from steps in terms of choosing which algorithm to be used, right, and coming up with the process to find the complete predictive models that can be automated, right? We have automated with that, right? So I can just quickly show a demo on that scenarios. Right? So we have something called create predictive scenarios. And let's take a use case where I'm doing basically a classification workflows, right? So I could say demo, right? So I have a data from a bank, and what I'm going to do now is just going to create a predictive model, and I say okay. And all that I need to do is point to my data set, right? So I have a data which is oh, I should change it to something else. Right. So I have a bank marketing data. So this is the data I downloaded from UCI machine learning website, right? So where it's for a particular bank where they want to upsell the particular product, understand, looking at the past history to understand like what are the potential customers will buy my products, right? So doing a basically upselling, right? And looking at the history, I'm going to train the data, choose the training model, right? And all that I need to say, what is the target I'm interested, right? And I can say I am interested in okay, deposit account open, right? With that build a model, right? And I can just say train, that's enough. So system is going to completely automate the process of this model building, looking at what is the right approach and see, before doing a model generation, I mean building, you try to clean the data, right? You try to figure out what are the missing values, try to figure out either you can cluster any particular columns, right? And you into that. So we have completely brought in this entire automation. And what users going to get is a couple of steps here, right? More quality of though the process of thing is like system is going to take care, right? But the model what is generating, which will be much open, right? In terms of for him to understand how well this model. For example, the two main parameters what we provide here is predictive power and predictive confidence, right? You know, any algorithm when you run, you have a lot of statistical output what comes, right? So for a non-data scientist to understand like what are the key parameters he has to use, so that he can decide whether to use those models or not, or and also understand the model, like how well this equations are generated, right? What are the key influencing attributes in the model? So for him to understand how well the model is going on, right? So one is the predictive power, right? It's basically like how well your model is representing the target, right? So the model what we generated very quickly is close to 70% of predictive accuracy. And next is predictive confidence, right? So that's where we give more importance in terms of model, right? So we could do some more iterations and make it the predictive power close to 99%, right? But problem is the model will be much biased on the training data what you provide, right? So we have to abstract all these things from the business users, right? So where we get into some lot of iteration and make sure the predictive confidence is high, where how the model is performing for the unseen data, right? And that we expected more than 95%, right? So in this case we have 96, close to 97%, right? Also it basically tells like what are the key contributors for your models, right? And the statistics information, right? Also it gives a lot of charts here saying like how well the model is performing. For example, if this is your random model, if you don't have any model, right? To target, to figure out all my 100% of the customers who will buy, then I have to reach out to the 100% of the customers. That's what this random model is saying, right? And here, this is if you say this is the best model which is available, it's like a wizard, right? So if the performance of that is like this, our model which we quickly generated in a couple of minutes is performing somewhere in between, right? Where I could read it like by contacting this 40% of the customers, right, whom this model is suggesting, right? I can reach out to close to 87% of the target, right? So with this you can understand, okay, how well the model is performing, so that whether he can reuse the model or not, right? And then once he has built the model, he can apply on the data, right? And use it. Okay. Right. Okay. So only the main few questions what we ask from the user is what is the business problem you're trying to solve, right? Whether you're doing a classification, regression, forecasting. So that's the only question what we ask. And then we ask what is the target what you're interested in, right? And then we get into the complete model building process. So we have a hands-on on this as well, okay? And next for the line of business users, right? So this is where it becomes much more challenging, right? So here at least the analyst is with the tool, and he is coming with the business problem what he is trying to solve. He has a time to solve. You use the tools to do it. We can do something, right? When it comes to the business user, right? So what we have done is when you say you can equate a business users like this, okay? For a retail use case, you are building a retail use case, and you build a model, and the model has been deployed in all the retail stores, right? The store manager is using that model, right? And when the store manager is using that particular model, and each store's demography is different, right? And in the classical approach, the model has to be retrained with the data filtered for that stores, right? And also you have a challenge. One of the main challenge is that when the model is operationalized, you have to keep monitoring the performance of the model, whether it is iterating, and also you might have got a new data where you could make the model much improved, right? So there is the entire process of life cycle management of a model, right, which can be embedded within the applications itself. So the retail manager, the store manager will have an option within the applications where he has an option to retrain the model, right, and the system which runs underneath to figure out how well the model is performing, okay, and whether the model is iterating or not. If it is iterating, right, what are the suggestions, and whether it can retrain. If it retrains, what could be the percentage of improvement. So all those things which is very friendly to the business users can be shown here, right. Also, scoring of the models, right, that's the end user workflows, right. We could do all the scoring of the model things also within the system, right, and which can be embedded, right. So we have some solution called predictive analytics integrator, right, where we can embed within the applications, right, and also like there are a few use cases which you can talk about, like SAP has a S4HANA solution. It's a suite on HANA, right, where all our business applications runs in most in on-premise and the cloud, where each and every business process we look at in terms of how to improve that with the machine learning, and with all the technologies what we have, how our partners and customers can use and improve the machine learning. The few use cases, one, if you take it as contract consumption, like one use case where we have worked is like looking at the contract consumption and to figure out if things goes like this, when the end users looks at and alerts him saying that your contract is going to be expired in next 2 months, right, trying to figure out the patterns in which the contracts are consumed, where it could be a seasonal, right, each contracts would be different. It would be like pay per use, or it could be like time based, or all those things, right. Looking at this, we have come up with the models which we look at the data, retrains each customer when they uses it. For their data, it will automatically train, come up with the model, and completely embedded within the applications, right. One another thing, you look at stock in transit, right, to figure out what are the stocks that's going to delay, or what are the tasks going to come much in advance, right, so that you can plan your inventory, plan your workforce working on getting your stocks much in it, okay. So the next is on quotations. So one of the use case where is what is a probability that a particular quotation will turn to be sale, right. So and understanding that probability, coming up with the models and embedding within the applications, right. So another thing is cash on discount. That's on the most finance workflow, where when the invoices comes, right, mostly the invoices payment is automated. But what happens in many cases is that there may be change in the quantity sold, there can be change in the cost, so something like there will be delay in settling. So there are some loss in the cash discount which happens, right. So understanding those patterns, where in future and trying to suggest for the mapping, right, and those kind of use cases, right. So there are a lot of use cases you could think in the business applications, right, and that's where SAP is in a sweet spot, where we have an application and we are able to embed within the application, also addressing for a non-data scientist, which is close to 90% of the users who is using analytics in an organization, right. And I think we are top of the hour. The few key learnings, okay. So what we have seen by having these capabilities in the system is like model is never a perfect model, you understand, right. So it's like optimize on your business goal and try to maximize loss from the model, right. And there is always a better data scientist can come and break a model with automated builds, right. At the same time, there can be another data scientist can come and build the better model, right. So always the challenge is there. So one more main thing what I could like to highlight is, okay, always the challenge of we need data, how much data we need, right. So I would like to quote saying the clean data beats more data, right. At the same time, more data beats better algorithm, Right? That's the real learning, right? So where SAP has lot amount of data, the application generate, and having an ability to clean, having a process to clean the data, making sure the data is good, and having this algorithms runs by the end users, right? We are able to have much better results, right? So having a clean data is the really key thing, right? And machine learning cannot be black box, yes, right? Though the process is black box building the model, but we are much open in terms of how the model is there, and so that the end user really understand and gets a confidence in terms of whether he has to use this particular model or not, right? And by operationalizing the ML use cases, right, into the business applications, we have seen a huge adoptions of machine learning in the analytics space in the users. Because once you build the model, unless and until the model is not operationalized, used by the business users, right, there is no value in the model, right? So that's where we are focused on embedding the models into the applications, and we have this operationalizing this machine learning model, right? Okay, so and as you know, like ML code is less, right? More in terms of extra activities like data access, processing, all those things, right? And more than ML, right? We focus on all the steps to have the very good quality of output which comes for the users, right? So in the space, SAP is seen as a leader by Forrester, right? And we are continue growing, and we have a lot of customers which they are using these solutions, right? So for 1 hour we spoke about this, right? So now I can take some questions, and then we can get into the hands-on, right? And I can talk about the hands-on is we are going to do an hands-on on all these cases, like even for a BI use case, how the system is doing, like quickly what I shown here. You could use your laptops and come up with insights. Also, you can bring your data in case if you have any data, and if you can connect to your organization, you could try to export the Excel and work on that, right? And also the smart predict, where you could build a serious predictive models, right, in a fraction of time, right? And these are the two hands-on which we are planning to do, right? So at this point of time, I can take some questions before we get into the hands-on. Right. There are few cases which runs underneath, and suggestions, alerts which happens, right? And but it is not available for the end users. The work is happening on this for the mainly success factors.
So that you plan to bring it as a
capability add-on to the solutions. What we have. Right. So just to understand the audience, how many are data scientists, core data scientists from this? So two. So all the BI analyst kind of persona who can. Okay, fine. So we have the hands-on for both. I mean, maybe not for the data scientist. For you could look at how. See, because most though we position this automated model building for non-data scientist persona, but most of our customers, data scientists uses it, right? Because they appreciate that. They say that their bandwidth goes much on the high priority use cases. There are a lot of backlogs where they could use these capabilities, come up with a model, and just they need to look at how good is this model, how serious is that decision that they need to take. So based on that, they get into the automated approach as well. Right? So, okay. So what we could do now is it's 11, right? And we can, there are, okay. So what you need to do now is just go to this URL, right? And tinyurl.com, https tinyurl.com, machine learning SAC users, right? And you can register here. We'll give you the access rights for you, and then you can start working on the use cases, what we have plans.
I have a question. So,
Yeah.
even Microsoft Azure provides something similar, though not in a probably UI way. So, do we have any benchmarking results against SAP and Microsoft?
Okay.
In terms
Okay.
of probably time taken to train or
So right there, okay, there are some third parties who are doing it, right? So, but I don't have the data, right? And we don't talk about that in the program. Maybe we can have an offline discussion on that.
For any kind of unsupervised learning cases, right? The data that you accept, does feature engineering, is feature engineering also done
Right.
by the tool or
By the tool. See, what happens is, if you, for example, if you throw 100 columns, right? So system is going to extrapolate that to permutation combinations. All right? It will make it to 1,000 columns. Okay, and then it is going to cluster some data, right? With all this thing, it does the feature engineering and combining two columns, right? And then it figures out like which are the key influences. Like key influence, you can map it to the PCA, RCA kind of stuff, right? But system does this feature engineering much automated way. But there are many challenges in feature engineering, right? Where you can think outside the box, right? So those things system will not do, right? But we have an option here where you can tell the system, there is a data manager options, where we can tell the system saying this is the feature engineering which I want to override, which want to use it, right? So it can accommodate that as well, right? So there are much more feature engineering, you know, right? Understanding the sequences, right? So we have a separate module which we don't have today, but we have a separate module in which a data scientist can do this and pass it to the non-data scientist for doing it. That's how we do it. Yep.
retail analytics, do you accept only data integrated with SAP?
No, like I showed, it wasn't from Excel, right? So so now data is everywhere, right? So if we can connect to the, we can't say only SAP. So what was the question? Oh, it's outside somebody.
Google Analytics also provides a similar dashboard
For the websites or something like, yeah. So this is for any data, right? So it's across industries and right? So yeah, the main we saw a huge breakthrough once we started embedding, integrating to the end users, right? So because like you have a averagely performing model, but once it operationalized, the value what they see is humongous, and that's where the adoptions of thing goes much higher. So,
Another challenge which we typically face is the data is not very clean. So it comes from like 10 different sources.
Right.
And the majority of time goes in merging that back.
so how we do this?
Understand that how this is going to be more effective when I already have a data in, let's say, a clean Excel format.
Right. So two things, right? So when we, in SAP world, right? So when we connect to the business applications, right? We know each column what is it, right? The data is much cleaner, and there is a lot of data cleaning algorithms runs within the applications, and there is a lot of validation happens, right? So one part of that we are safe, right? So where our solution works perfectly. As you said, right, when the challenge is when you kind of get the data from external sources, like from a Facebook, right, and try to clean, there is a challenge in the clean, right? Always the clean data is better than the more data, right? You will have a better solution only if you have a clean data. But even that process we have to some extent automated to trying to find the missing values, right, and trying to find the outliers, right? And since we are doing automatically and doing it in a underneath in a separate thread, right, we can start showing some insights. Initially one insight, later by learning in next couple of minutes some more insight comes, something else, right? So that way we are able to handle it, right, by doing some standard cleanup activities, I would call, right? And also we do some feature engineering, like I said, like combining more columns, right, and doing key influencers and focusing on the model performance rather than the model this one quality, right? No, you're right, there are multiple techniques, right? So for example, if you have 100 columns and there are only 2 columns is missing, you can figure out which he is close to which cluster. You can, it does it underneath.
But it requires business knowledge, right, in that case, because you can't always rely on picking up.
Agreed. So any time understanding the business is very good. That is also another best learning, right? Than throwing to the system, right? Understanding the business is very right. So user has an option to say these are the columns, you can remove it, which doesn't belongs to the business, right? So yes, that always can beat the automated stuff. But at the same time, filling the missing values, there are some standards which you can do it where system users have not done before. That's what I said. Like if the data is clean, that we no need to do that. If the data is not clean, right, then we get into certain process to make sure the data gets into clean, and then get into the next steps. Right.
So if you compare with the IBM AWS offerings,
Yeah, so if we compare with the AWS and IBM offerings, what would you say which is there's an additional USP associated with the SAP product?
Right. So there. Okay. So like I said, the wide spectrum, right? So I didn't speak about data science today, right? Since the topic was on augmented analytics. For data scientist thing, we have we have a cloud platform, right? We have our all the algorithms like HANA algorithms and everything, right? It's equivalent to the any algorithm. You know the algorithms cannot be proprietary. I mean, it cannot limited to proprietary. Right? People can bring any R algorithms. Right? We can integrate with our in-memory R, in-memory HANA machines algorithm. So that is one side we have. Right? Another main thing what I see is this augmented analytics. Right? I have not seen anybody doing this in BI space. Right? And having an data scientist in a box, I would call, right, which is completely monitoring the users what he's doing and trying to give them suggestions and building the model for non-data scientists. One, the next key thing is where we have really gone into adoption is embedding into the business applications. Right? So that has really taken this to the next level, right? So as an SAP, we have that.
So the areas where you already have a SAP product and you have that data,
yes.
So that is probably
and any applications you can
key,
bring, right?
yeah.
So since we have done for SAP applications,
Yeah.
right? You can write any custom applications in the SAP platform, right? And get your external data and integrate this with your application. That is also possible, right? So having this automated way, and we have something called a factory module, right? So which basically monitors the model. So how the model is performing over time, it looks at, right? And it suggests whether the model can be retrained. If it retrains, what will be the percentage of changes of the improvement, right? And it suggests. So that is a major overhead. It's not model building, right? After that, operationalizing, keep monitoring, using the right model. That itself a model life cycle, right? And it's a huge task. And we are able to have that module which is embedded applications which has a package use. So these are key.
So doesn't augmented then come to a level beyond ML? I mean, you showed those.
Right.
So actually, you're doing
Okay.
the operational ML as well as the analytical intelligence, right?
Exactly. I'll come to that slide. Right, this one, right? So what we are doing is this assistant part, assisting the BI users to find the insight, right? We have a what if analysis also. I quickly showed, because of the screen I couldn't show much detail, right? Once you have a model built, right, you can do model based what if analysis.
Yeah, right.
Right?
And that's
So
the reason I'm saying shouldn't augmented be
we use this also.
ahead of advanced?
Okay, so I mean.
Or this is not in sequence.
I mean, you can take it as a sequence, but you cannot draw a border very strongly, right?
Yeah.
So even these capabilities, what we do it for the non-data scientist, right? So smart predict we call it, right? So I was trying to put the entire jargon into a single slide, trying to see where it
I
fits
understood augmented before coming to this session as
Okay.
something that is beyond AI, because
Okay,
I,
okay, okay.
I didn't know that Augmented
Yes,
is also the smart analytics,
Yes,
which
yes.
does the initial feature engineering. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Right. So I'll quickly show that slide where you can register for hands-on, and we could support you with this tinyurl.com, MLSAC users. Just go there and just put in your details. So we will immediately give you the access, and then we can get into the use case. Right. Yeah.
Hello.
Wi-Fi password, is it? I think there is a open network, right? There is a free way connect to
There's
that,
a
and
Tata Tele Wi-Fi that you can connect to, and it will send OTP to your mobile number. You can just put it the mobile that 4-digit code, and that will connect you to that Wi-Fi.
you have to give a mobile number or something. You will get a pin to your mobile number. And, okay, he's going to talk
Yeah.
about
So we will do a hypothetical situation where my manager has sent me 2 questions. He's saying that through social media and through different channels, I'm reading that there is a lot of trend towards going healthy or buying health drinks and getting into those areas. Now, does this trend really corroborated by the data that we have, the transaction data? So we have the transaction data for 2014, 2015, 2016 for these 3 years across different products, across different regions. And from that, we need to really look through and understand, is this what the data is telling? And though all this can be done by complete BI way, okay, as a user I can also approach by not inducing my biases and ask system to tell me what is happening. And there are both the approaches that we can follow, so we will do that in the hands-on. Post that, we also do another piece of the question, which is we did a campaigning in 2016, and in 2016 we want to understand how effective was our campaigning when it comes to the net revenue or quantity sold. Okay, does it really translate? And if it was not, then is there a way where I can identify clusters of my customers or regions where I can actually go ahead and optimize my campaigns? Okay, so these are the 2 questions that we are looking to answer. So in this, I'll just show you how to use the tool, what is the development environment like, and how to play around with that. And we have already created a story with the models imported. So a story is what basically a business artifact that you create in SAP Analytics Cloud. So you would be working on that, and we would take around 40 minutes, so you can explore completely the tool. You can use this model. If you don't want to work on this these 2 questions, try out something else, that's also completely fine. Bring your own data and try out with the product. Post 40 minutes, we plan to show, given the same questions, how would say I try to do it, right? So that would be benefit for all people who do not want to try or who are not carrying their laptops. So that's where we will cover all the augmented capabilities that we have, or basically what we call as smart features in SAP Analytics Cloud. So how we would cover all those pieces there. So that is the plan. And
okay. The second plan.
2016.
16. So next is like we can get into this smart predict, where you could build the models, right? As a getting into this automated approach and go into the model building steps, serious model building steps, right? So we have a few capabilities there. We can show you that, and we have a bookstore. You are an analyst for a bookstore, and you are going to do an upsell for the new book which is getting launched, right? And you could try to find some answers for looking at the models, trying to understand how the model it is, and also do some simulations on the models, right? And what is the profit simulations? Like if I spend for contacting one particular customer is 20 rupees, and if I'm going to make 200 rupees, like if I want to maximize my profit, whom are the customers I should contact, right? Those kind of analysis, and if your time permits, you can go on applying the models. Yeah, yes, yeah, we have a free trial for SAP Analytics now. I think 30 days, right?
30 days.
30 days.
So depending on the customers, there is a high touch and low touch model. So low touch model, no sales is not involved. High touch model, sales is involved. So that is 30 and 90 days respectively. Yeah.
You don't need to worry about the second URL right now. The first URL, have you already registered your name? Okay. Fine. Okay. Just hold on for some time because I will enable anyways the tenant for you. So you would be getting an email. Right from there as well, you can move forward. So it will start working for you. Well, I just wanted to understand how many people here are actually going to do the hands-on, because I see about 4 people who have registered till now in the spreadsheet. Are there more people going to be? Okay.
Sure. This is specific to US region. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking for
Segmented modeling.
Sure. At least, may I know like how many people are going to do the hands-on here, because I will start provisioning the tenant then. Okay. So some people are still yet to register it, right? So it would be great if all of you can input it in the next 5 minutes. I will provision a tenant. You will get an email from there. You would have to activate and then set your password and get going for the tenant. The second URL is a direct access to the tenant itself, but then it will not work without a user. So that's why I was requesting that if you could provide your email addresses as well as the name, that would help us to provision the tenant faster. So can we get the tenant, can we get the username details in the next 5 minutes from all of you?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
go to the link and you should be good.
Anybody not able to
Yeah,
access the first
if
link?
someone wants to take a break, please feel free. And,
you could log in with a Gmail address, not a problem. That is the problem. Your Gmail password. It's
This is basically Google spreadsheet. So it will open your Google spreadsheet. You just need to enter your username, name, and email. Those things is what we are looking for.
Yeah.
So since this is a cloud solution, every user has to have a logged in access. So we need to create your users in the system, so that email notification will go to you, your email IDs. From there, you can actually start logging in.
okay. So SAP Labs, SAP Bangalore Labs, right? We work closely with startups, right? So you could engage into the startup programs, right? And you will have access to all SAP solutions. And because SAP encourages startups and making them to come to SAP work, use the technologies, right? That way we can push our technologies also. We can use. So we incubate a lot of startups. So that through that process, if you come, you will have much more there.
Otherwise, SAC as a product, it's on a subscription license. Okay, so it's a per user access. So I think it's you can buy it directly from the cart from the store, and you can use it. That's very much possible.
It's a cloud solution.
like, for analysis at least, the
You could
free
use. Yeah, you could do.
integration
Yeah,
analysis.
you could do that.
The registration for this SAP implement program
It's not only SAP, the entire SAP. You could look at
with
for
the startups, you said, you can go to the site and then find out.
When you log in, so he would be provisioning your users. You would get a notification to your email. From there, you can actually launch and log in to SAP Analytics Cloud. once you log in, you would land up at the home page. From here, this is the hamburger icon that allows you to create a new story, models and all different things. This is for basically browsing on files, models and different pieces, and rest of the things you won't need. So browse for files, and you need to go to public. So public and then juice company. This is a story that I have created as a template where both the models are imported. You just need to create a copy. For that, go to my files and just save a copy there. So that would be your copy, and you can start editing that document and working on that. So I would revert to my files. So when you open, this is a blank story, as you can see. Click on edit, go to data. You can see both the data sets that are there imported. One is basically a juice company where different drinks are sold across different years, different locations by different sales managers, and the campaigns that have run in 2016 across the same regions to increase the sales. So this is basically the data set. You can explore this data set from here, and then you have a toolbar where you have a lot of options. In case you want to design certain visualizations or anything that you create, you can insert it from top. There is a way to actually start searching using a natural language query. You can actually start from here and search on insights directly, and then if you want to work on the visualizations, there is a design time and there is a builder. So you have in the builder, you can actually choose the chart type, specifically add measures and dimensions, and add different axes. And in the builder, you can actually do the formatting of the charts and all those pieces, and you can move. So on this panel, we had for any of the charts, you can choose the chart type, you can add measures, dimensions, play around with the different options, you can add few other things. And for the canvas piece, you can actually move it here and there. You can see other options over here also. Okay, and the questions that we are looking answers for, or actually would be these. I am sure this would be readable till the back. So this is the questions that I got in my email, where my manager is asking, I'm hearing about growing consciousness towards health drinks in general public. Can you check and confirm if this trend is also reflected in our sales for last 2-3 years? So this data is from 2014 to 2016, and like it's an old scenario. So we would be checking on that data. And in 2016, we ran some campaigns. How significant was their impact on the net revenue? So these are the two questions that we need to answer. Both the data sets you have, and you can start exploring. In case you're stuck anywhere, just raise your hand. I will be around, and I will try to assist you with what you're trying to do. How to approach these features via the complete via the augmented analytic features or the smart features that we have in SAP Analytics Cloud. So I've been given the same problem. So how I would start is, I would start from this. So I will say describe my data, so which is my juice model. So I will select that and say, so it gives me that there are 5 different measures and there are few dimensions. I can see that there are geographic information regarding the stores. There is a location, products, sales managers who are selling. There is a date across when the transactions happen. And then I see the gross margin, discount, price, and quantity sold. So when I need to see a trend about the sales of my product, I would pick quantity sold as the best indicator. So what I would do is show me quantity sold. So this is the net quantity that I've sold for the last 3 years. I can say in 2016, if I'm more concerned by date, let's say by date. So this is what it is showing me for different years. I can see across all years, and if I want to actually split it by say by date and product, so now it is giving me quantities sold for the different products that I have. So I will, this is something that is interesting, I will add to my story. Okay, and I will go to the designer panel. The colors are not very clear to me, so I will go here and change the color palette. So the different products start standing out. So I have juices, carbonated drinks and alcohols. So typically my healthy drinks category is juices, right? So I'm seeing that for most of the period in 2016 it was juices. There is a trend that only during this period this was doing alcohol was selling more. I don't know the reason why, but in general I've been seeing juices is doing well. So now I can actually go and see, would this forecast actually continue, or would this trend actually continue going forward. So this is where I'm using the predictive algorithms, the defined. I can choose automatic forecast, which would actually pick the right algorithm based on the data set you have. I can choose triple exponential smoothing or other data sets, and this will actually give me the trend. So there is a possibility that the forecast tells me that this trend is basically going to continue. So now let me add another page where I would want to see, say, quantity sold by say location. So I have I will add this. So I'm seeing that California is selling more, and I will select and look for insights on that. So here I'm saying seeing that orange pulp is one of the products that is selling most, and I can see this is typically coming from the orange pulp is coming from the juices category, and here it also tells me Kiran Raj is the sales manager who's actually doing well. Maybe this is something where I would like to congratulate him or give some goodies to him. So that's one. In case I want to build something that that needs to be published as a report, where I am not there to look out these insights, then I can actually select this, go here and say add smart insights to my visualization. So where whatever insight that I have seen, it also adds to the visualization as a bottom, and along with filters and all, it will actually use those machine learning algorithms to find out what are the key drivers for what you are actually seeing on the visualization. So this is where it is also telling me that product orange with pulp is actually doing really well. So for now I would just drop this visualization. Now let me start seeing this visualization or quantity sold by location. Okay, let's add that, and I can actually go to I can drill this and go to next level and see sort that by quantity sold highest to lowest. Okay, and top location is Los Angeles. So let me see what's the trend in Los Angeles. So even there this product is doing well. So let me try to actually see how this different products are doing across years. So I will add a trellis dimension, and there I would add date, and on date axis I will choose the level 2, which is years. So, and I will replace the location with the product. So to understand how the products are actually doing well, or how the products are actually doing across the different years. So just to make sure that juices is actually highlighted properly, I would go to the conditional formatting, assign colors. I would pick up this the data set I would want, and the product. I would look for juices and say mark it in green color. Done. And I would add that to color axis as well, so that is how it gets highlighted. Yeah, so right now you can see that this particular item is getting highlighted. So this is the trend that I'm trying to check. I will select this visualization. Now from trellis I will remove date. I will add say stores. So now it is showing me trend across different stores. So across different stores also I can see the green color is actually higher than most other things. So this is where I'm actually trying to use and verify the trend that I have been seeing. So that's on the first question part. On the second question, which was basically understanding did my events really work. So what I would do is I will add another page. I will add a chart and choose a scatter plot where I on the one side, so in case I want to analyze on two different data models, so I need to add both of them here. On one end I will add say quantity sold 2016. So this is a restricted measure that I have created, which will only aggregate data for 2016, not all the years, because my event campaign actually ran in 2016 itself, so I cannot compare it for all year data. And on another axis I can actually pick up the number of events, and I can see it across say locations, or let me add the stores actually. Wait, did I miss something? Or if I add city from this. Okay, I'm missing something. There is some issue with the link, I guess. Okay, so anyways, I'll drop it as of now. What I wanted to actually show here is I wanted to show the number of events, and as well as on the other axis I would like to show you how the quantity sold have been for 2016. It basically turns out that my campaigns were not directly correlating with the output. So what I need to do is basically I can use smart grouping, which is again a machine learning algorithm that understands what is the cluster of data that you have and tries to group them in bins, which identify based on the parameters that you have provided in the visualization. Now you can use those bins to actually optimize your campaigns going forward for the 2017 campaigns. So you can see that the ones that highly responded to the campaigns, okay, you need to do more effective campaigning there. But the cities where the campaigns were not so much effective, either you need to change your campaigning or you may not spend so much of on campaigning in those regions, right? So these are the two questions that we wanted to cover. Any other questions? I would be able to take up post this session. Now I would hand over to Ashok for the next piece.
Right. So, okay, during the presentation we saw two things, right? One is the use cases which was helping the BI users to find insights. Those are the workflows what we have done now. So the next what we are going to do is getting into the serious model building process, right? So how we are able to automate and build a predictive models for a non-data scientist persona. That's what we are going to see now, right? So this is the use case now. Mainly assume yourself as a citizen data scientist whom you are not well versed with the data science process, but at least you know what is the business problem you are trying to solve. Okay. So one of the business problem what is you have currently is you are an analyst in a bookstore and you have a new book. It's on Italian kitchen cookbook basically. Basically that you are going to launch that book, right? So you want to do targeted marketing and you want to reach out to your set of customers who really will be potential to buy, right? You don't have all bandwidth to reach all your customers. So you want to really pick and choose the customers whom you want to reach so that there is a high potential, there is a high probability that it turns out to be a sale, right? So this is the use case, right? And you have, I'll just quickly show the screens and so you have to go to new, create predictive scenarios, right? So as a citizen data scientist, you know the business problem now, right? And you don't know which algorithm to choose and all those things. At high level, it is expected to give us like in terms of what you are trying to solve, right? We ask only very simple thing whether you are trying to solve a classification, regression or a time series. In our use case, it's a classification problem. Basically, you are going to classify whether a customer will buy or not buy, right? So you choose a classification here and right, give with your name, right? In my name, I'll just say Ashok, right? And choose the data set, create predictive models, right? And you map to the input data set which is there in public, and it has data set for MSDL, right? Bookstores. And what you could do is, this is the past historic response, right? So where I know my historic customers, whether like whether they have bought or not bought, right? And with that, you could start doing exploration. One of my target variable here is what I'm doing is I'm trying to upsell the Italian kitchen books, right? You could choose the target variable and do the train and start exploring the models what you are getting and try to understand the models, right? And try to explore and see how well the model is helping you, right? And this is the use case. And there is a mouse here. Okay. Project, right? So take these steps and try to figure out some more details like build a model, analyze the model, right? And try to do some profit simulations, right? And then I'm going to do a demo maybe at least last 5 minutes and you can have some questions on this. So here I am in this going to create a new predictive scenario. So what I'm doing is a classification model, and I'm just click on classification, right, and giving a name for my model, right. Once I say I create a model, and point to my data set, right. So our data set is in this particular folder, right. So I'm looking at the past responses, and I'm going to say the target variables. So so I'm interested in upselling of like Italian cookbooks, right. So I have a particular column which says earlier whether the particular customer has gone for this book or not, right, this category of book, right. And also, like, if I know something like it, I can exclude. For example, if I have a customer number or something, if I can exclude, or I can just leave it to the system, right. System can figure out whether it is makes sense or not, right. So generally we have a lot of columns here, right. So basically, if you take close to 20 columns here, right, and say train with all these 20 attributes, looking at our target. So what system is doing is it's building a model automatically, right, and it's going to give us few statistics about the model, right, and let's look at the model building, right. So time taken to model building, which will be largely depend on the data. It's not mainly on the data size. It is based on the insights what it finds in the data, right. So say in few cases you might have only 10,000 rows, but it might take some couple of 3-4 minutes to do it. But in some case where you have 1 million rows, it will happen in a minute, right. So it's all based on the data what it iterates through, right. And here when it looks at, like, it is basically telling me there are two parameters. One, the quality of the model is 84% accurate. It means that he is able to build a model which can explain my target, that is nothing but this cookbook, Italian cookbook, and 84% of times it is success, right. So the model quality is this. The model confidence is like it has separated some amount of data from your entire data set and kept it aside. It has not used those data in the model building, right, and basically how the model is performing with the unseen data, right. That's where it's basically saying, right. Also what it has done is for us, like, it's looked at all the 20-25 attributes what we had, variables, right. So it has figured out there are key contributing variables, right. So let's look at more details into it. Like there is something called a variable contribution here, right. So it says that earlier purchase of any cookbook has a high contribution to the high influences on the people buying the Italian cookbook. Yes, it makes sense. There are some more informations like frequency, right. So the frequency column, basically what it is like how often the customer has visited to the website or the store, right. That has other like contributions, right. So if you want to understand more about each and every contribution, what you could do, like, since we saw there is a frequency has a relation, right. So basically what it says that customers who have visited, right, for the past 10 months, 4 to 5 months, 5 to 8 months, 8 to 12, per 1 year or so, has a positive influence on my target, right. People who have visited earlier beyond 1 month, right, and it has come that they have the negative influence on my target, right. So with this you could try to understand in terms of what are the different contributing factors and key influence variables. So let's look at some more information, like the confusion matrix, right. The standard confusion matrix, specificity, sensitivity, right. Let's look at profit simulation, right. So here it will be much more interesting, right. So looking at the probabilities of each and every proposals, right. What we could do is, okay, we could look at a cost simulations here. To contact a particular customer, if it takes 20 rupees, and if turns out to be a good sale, right, if I make 100 rupees, right, and to maximize the profit, right. So it basically telling me that if you contacts this number of contacts is if you contact this 1054 customers, that is nothing but 16% of the proposals what system is doing, right, you could maximize your profit, right. So beyond which, if you contact, your total profit will basically come down. You could start seeing the total profit which is coming down, basically, right. So and if you If same thing, if the cost for contacting each customer if increases, for example 50 rupees, but you are going to make only 100 rupees, right? But system will say that you just contacts only this 4% of the customers, right, to maximize the profit, right? So based on the probabilities of what is the chance that customer is going to buy, right, system going to sort out on those cases and help you to do some profit simulation. Also you could look at, like, you have a bandwidth for contacting 500 people, right? Then what will be the profit you will make, right? So these kind of analysis you can do, right? And there are almost a lot of performance curves, and it's much more detailed stuff, right? So and then once you do it, you could start apply on your data, like current customers, right? So historic customer, you build a model, and then you could take that model and apply on your current customers, where you could say that my input data set is like these are my past prospects, right? I can say my output also similar way. Right. So also you could say what are the things you want to include: R variables, contextual information, apply data, training data, right? I think there should be some more columns because of the resolution. Something is not coming up. Maybe I'll reduce here, right? So I could look at the statistics information. Also, you could have the results which is coming in predictive category, probability, confidence, scores, right? All those informations, right? And when you apply, so you could look at the predictive model is getting applied on your data, right? So once it applied, you could look at the data sets, and you know from the current customers, right, who are have high potential to buy, right? It's applied now. I could go to same data set. Where's my mouse? Yeah. Okay, maybe I'll. Looks there is a network error, and okay, I think we've gone out of internet now. So right, so basically what it does is on your current customers, you can say that what is the probability of each customers going to buy or not that, and then you could sort out on the probability. You could import that into the stories what you saw in the earlier use case, and start analyzing with the other use cases and get into more insights, right? So as a non-data scientist persona, using this augmented analytics, coming up with a model, right, where data science is in a box which takes a lot of things automatically and gives you a good quality of a model, right, and also explains you how the model is, and get you an understanding and get into model building much faster, right? That's about it, right? Maybe any questions I could answer now. We have 5 more minutes. Yeah. So do you guys see such use cases in your organization for always it's difficult to find the data scientists, right? So and use cases are much higher, right? Good. Yes. The BI, conventional analytics, right? So we have a trial version of SAP Analytics Cloud, right? Go to sapanalytics.cloud and sign in for the trial versions, and you could explore all the workflows, right? And then do trial, and then it's a pay-per-use subscription, right? If you like it, then you could extend it and continue using for your organization for the production users, right?